Chair Kimbrough. Vice Chair Inverson. Member Martinovich. Member Burt.
Here.
Member Guglieri.
Here.
Member Wiggins. Member Mozinga. A quorum's present.
Thank you. All right, well, here's an opportunity in the agenda for public comments. I remind folks that it's always, if you have specific items for something on the agenda, it'd be better if you spoke during that time than early, but that's not to say you can't speak to any items at this point, because the public comments are open right now as we start this meeting. Are you coming up, Denny? Identify yourself. You know the routine, don't you, Denny?
Hi, Denny French, Carson City, Nevada, Chair and Committee. I'm here to bring attention to my concerns, basically. I don't speak for other people, but I'm hoping that people will take time to notice the trail for Phase 3 of Prison Hill. Its intent to be 8 feet, at this point 10, but I can't direct it. So my idea, instead of the 10, is 8, and I came to that by measuring the chairs, horses, and people that might be with as a support person. And our walkway through in this doorway, as you come through that door and then come through here, is 8 feet. And I believe that if you look at it and walk it yourself and give it a perspective thought, that's a big area. My concerns are the microbiology or the microcosmic part of the bugs and plants and the animals that really will be affected by the removal of as much of the sage and the other plants there. They have a list of the insects that are up there or should be able to be up there, a list of the plants in here. And that area, even though it would be maybe only a few feet difference between what's proposed, and I'm really glad that the proposal had gone down to 10 feet instead of wider. So I'm glad for that, but I feel that this would be more than adequate. You look at the sidewalk out here between the parking and the street, that's 8 feet. And if you can't see people being able to go along there nicely with each other, share the space, and be accommodating horses, bicyclists, strollers, and wheelchairs, and I don't know why you would have to have a bigger space unless we have individuals have gotten so astray or so uncomfortable with each other. We need to have miles between us. I don't think that it's an appropriate place for such, and I think it would be a really detrimental thing to the insects and the other inhabitants of the hill when it's not necessary. I'd like the placement also to be considered, and I haven't seen the final plans on that. I've only been out there to the ribbon areas that I've seen myself. This past weekend, I got to the summit. I've done most of the trails on the OHV side as far as where the trail for the riding, and I've also done the West Basin up to the summit. And so I've gotten a beautiful view from up there, and it's beautiful. And the people I saw out there enjoying it was wonderful. One thing I would like to add, though, that during the considerations about the use of the hill, that maybe encourage parents to go with their children. I saw kids that were really very young out there by themselves on big vehicles, four-wheel brooms, you know? And I think maybe it should be a cautionary type thing for the parents. Somebody of at least 18 should be with those youngsters that are under 10. Because when I was out there was a slight mishap. They lost, the chain broke, and they were in an awkward spot. So they needed help getting out, and we helped direct in the sense of between the kids and I, knowing finally where their parents or an adult were, get somebody up there to get them out. But so I think that should be encouraged, more education.
Thank you, Denny.
Thank you.
Can you remind me, and if there's somebody listening, watching us, when that public meeting is coming up for that?
Yeah, certainly. For the record, Greg Berger, Trails Coordinator. So the open house that where we'll present the 30% plans for the trail, that will be on October 10th from 5:30 p.m. to, from 5 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. At the community center lobby.
Great.
And we're going to send out a mailing to adjacent residents this week, so they'll be aware of it.
Thank you. Thanks, Danny. Anybody else for public comment? Seeing none, I bring it back here for possible action and approval of minutes. Do I have any changes or recommendations or motion?
It's really minor, but under the listing of OSAC members, Robert's not listed under there. And he is a member.
Glad you caught that.
So you don't get paid for that meeting?
Yeah.
He was, yeah.
That's minor. We know he's there, yeah.
I wasn't there that meeting.
Yeah,
so
you
maybe
were
that was-
incognito. All right, any other changes? Can I get a motion then?
I move to accept the minutes from the June 20th meeting.
Second, Donna. Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Approval of minutes is done. All right, so let's move into the meeting items. For somebody who's patiently waiting for his chance to share his story with us today. So for discussion only, review and discussion regarding Samuel Gaskell's, I hope I said that right, Eagle Scout project to realign a segment of trail on Prison Hill. Greg?
Yeah, so continuing Open Space's long history of helping Eagles attain their Eagle Scout by doing a project. Samuel Gaskell approached us some time ago, and he asked to do a trail project, and so we found him a project on Prison Hill, helping to realign a segment of trail it's a fall line trail, and so he's going to realign it to make it more sustainable. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Mr. Gaskell.
Hello, so my name is Samuel Gaskell, as has been said, and I'm doing the Prison Hill. It's the West Loop. I've called it Reroute Project. So, yeah. Okay. So you already know my name. So I'm currently involved in Boy Scouts as a Life Scout, which is the second highest rank, and I'm working towards Eagle Scout, which is why I'm doing this project, the planning and execution of it, and it involves rerouting a section of trail on the Prison Hill West Loop Trail. So details, project will be done by volunteers and led by myself. It will involve marking the location of the trail, cutting away brush and anything just in the way, and then moving sand and rock to create a trail. Then we will cover the old trail with brush. We'll move that over it so people are on the right trail, and that goes back into just desert. So the tools we will use will be loppers, shovels, pickmatics, and McLeods. The new trail will be approximately 400 feet and have one turn. The grade will be approximately 9%. This project is needed because the current section of trail, which it will replace, is about 20% in grade and doesn't shed water well. So it's dangerous, not very sustainable. The new one will fix that because it will be safer, easier to walk on, and it will last longer because water will not travel down it and erode it. And here's an image of the a greater location of it, so a large portion. If everyone is good. Am I ready to move on? And here's a closer up image where you can see more of the trail and how it replaces the section. And here's some pictures of the area we're going to do it on. So first there's the trail path where we're going to start facing westwards. The current trail, which is very steep and damaged by water and slippy because of its extreme grade and sand. And then here's the facing northeast, the lower section of the trail. So this would be sort of backwards or going downhill. And then the second picture is upper section facing northwest. So that's also backwards, going downhill. Then there's the end of the proposed trail facing west, and central portion of the trail facing northwest. That would be around where it turns, I believe. Yes, northwest. Then the beginning of the trail facing east. So that's, well, the start would be, that is at the start. So that's the desert in the other direction. And then the proposed trail facing west. So that would be the start in the way that the trail will go. And safety procedures. So the volunteers will be asked to come with long pants and long sleeve shirts, closed-toe shoes, eye protection, and gloves. They'll need to wear hard hats, which will be provided. They will also be asked to bring sunscreen and water. At the start of the project, I will go over how to handle tools safely and the techniques that they need to use to construct the trail. And then other things will be potential hazards, first aid procedures, reminders to wear everything, PPE such as gloves, hard hats, and sunscreen, and to stay hydrated. Then for partners, I've worked with Mr. Bergeron, who's the trail coordinator, Carson City Parks and Recreation and Open Space, and Mr. Sinnott, technical advisor, Muscle Powered. And also I would like to thank, I'd like to thank the OSAC for giving me the opportunity to present this project. I'd like to thank Mr. Sinnott for finding the project for me and helping with planning. I'd like to thank Mr. Bergeron for helping me plan everything in order to successfully execute the project. And that is the end, so thank you for hearing my presentation. And does anyone have any questions? Yes.
Thank you. It was wonderful, and I've been up on that trail before, so I appreciate the effort that you're going to put into it. How did you know the alignment of the new trail segment? How did Mr. Sinnott or Greg guide that, or did you kind of provide some advice on it? How did you come up with the alignment?
So they helped. So we went out with Mr. Sinnott and Mr. Bergeron, and I went out. We sort of looked at it, used the, I believe, I don't remember the name, but yes, chronometer that tells you the grade. So we used that to get the right grade and just sort of made it. So
Good. Thank you.
that answers your question.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you.
Any other questions down there? Any questions this way? No, great presentation. I have a lot of respect for your program. I was very proud of your mom. She didn't film you and embarrass you while you were making your presentation. She wanted to, I'll bet you, though. What will you do? She let that go. These programs are really important, and it's always nice because you bring the community and the whole generation of people when you come out to do these jobs that we hope will have the respect that the Boy Scouts have a long record of their environment that they live in. So good job, and we look forward to pictures afterwards for when you're done. It looks like you got good scenery while you're up on the hillside there.
Yep.
You'll have to keep everybody working instead of they're watching the scenery in the downtown area.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
This was a discussion item only, so we don't have any votes, but anybody else want to say anything else before we'll let him go home and relax now. And thank you.
Mhm.
Excellent. All right, so now I have, with the new procedures we got, that's what I'm just going to say. Thank you for that. Yeah, Danny, we've made that promise that every agenda item will have public comment, so we're stayed true to our word.
I'm so tickled for this opportunity. I didn't know that this young man was the Mr. Gaskell. I didn't connect the name on here to this young man, so sorry. But thank you. And how much of a hike is that going to be? Or are you going to bring your equipment up? Is he going to bring, how do I do this?
Well, that's
I
not
look,
normally somebody come and question what he's
oh,
doing.
no, but I just, just some of the people helping may not, it was quite a trek for me. So just be prepared for everybody maybe needing a
Well, he's
rest
got
point.
two of the best trail people in this part of the world.
There you go.
Paul and Greg out there helping them. So.
Yeah, maybe save their energy for the workabout instead of the trip up. Thank you.
All right. You're a free man, sir. All right, so for discussion only again, 5B, review and discussion regarding Clayton Jones Eagle Scout project to conduct maintenance. I don't see another young man here.
So,
Is there?
yeah, I know that Mr. Jones had another obligation this evening and he was going to be rushing to get here.
Well, we'll
So,
just set him aside till he gets
so
here.
we'll set him aside and get back to him.
And we'll
Yep.
just embarrass the heck out of him when he
Okay.
comes in late.
Okay.
Okay, 5C, for discussion only, review and discussion of the Prison Hill OHV area monitoring report and updates on the Prison Hill OHV area. Lindsay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the record, Lindsay Boyer, Open Space Manager. So just wanted to provide the committee with an update regarding our annual monitoring program that we have out at the Prison Hill OHV area. This annual monitoring site visit was completed this June, as well as a subsequent site visit in August. Originally, we started this monitoring effort in 2020 as an effort to start tracking changes over time at the OHV area, as well as to be able to track progress with some of the work that we've been doing out there as far as restoration is concerned. I did want to note that this monitoring effort does not replace the conservation easement monitoring effort that the BLM does. They still complete that every year. This is just something that we as staff started doing in addition to that effort. So the report before you includes a few items. It does include the repeat photos that we'll take every year, just as a way to kind of see that change over time, as well as be able to identify if any issues are arising. The report also captures all the work that was completed between June 2022 to June 2023. The report also notes events that took place out at the Prison Hill OHV area, and then includes a section for the work that is intended to be completed over the next year. So you have the report before you, and I would be happy to take any questions.
I'm going to do something tonight and ask from Mary. I'm going to start with Mary. I'm going to go down the line so that we can each give a mini report of our field trip out there to the OHV site. So we can have it as part of the public record that they took the time to take us out. We should respond in kind with leave some comments about what we felt about the trip and how it engages itself with the plan. So I'll start with Mary, and then we'll just each person have an opportunity to say something.
All right. First of all, Lindsay, thank you for taking me out there on the tour. It was wonderful. And I just wanted to say, I think the city is doing an incredible job. I know that this is an unusual thing to have within a city, an OHV area. Most cities do not have anything like this. And your staff has put together a plan which the supervisors agreed to and have done just incredible work with hardly any staff through COVID. With all of the challenges, I'm stunned to even say that anything has been done out there. And there has been a complete 180-degree turnaround from what it used to be. Used to be a mess, roads going everywhere. You have diligently taken care of that. You have gone to outside professional resources to do your due diligence to make sure you were crossing the T's, dotting the I's. And I know that there are a lot of things that need to be done, but you have a comprehensive plan that will take care of these items. It just takes time and resources, which are always limited. So I saw improvements. I saw a plan that's in place. And I also, just on a personal note, really enjoyed the fact that it had like little green, easy areas, blue, little harder areas, black, and like crazy looking areas. And as a skier, I can relate to those. There are people out there that have the skill and the proper equipment to do some of that crazy stuff. And what a wonderful thing, because the city's trying to provide opportunity for recreational opportunities for everyone of every skill level. I really enjoyed the tour. I look forward to going out there again and walking around and seeing each improvement as you implement them. And I know that you finally have gotten some more staff on board this summer, which will help immensely. So good job. I can't believe that you've come as far as you have in such a short amount of time over such a chaotic period of time in our country with nothing. So that is my comment. Robert?
Okay, Rob Guilleri for the record. So again, this is coming from someone who was born and raised in Carson City, who recreated in this area in high school with ATVs and vehicles and Jeeps and whatnot. It is truly night and day difference what the short period of time you guys have done there. The revegetation efforts along the trails that you have closed are doing very well. Vegetation is growing back. It is obvious the areas that you're supposed to be in and not supposed to be in now, which I think is very important for the people using the area. When it was managed by the BLM, it was very often that you just got to go wherever you wanted to because that was what the rules were. You guys have really done a good job identifying the designated routes, closing off the areas that have been closed off. We had a huge winter, which was great, but this is still a very, very arid environment. So the revegetation you guys have had in such a short period of time is really impressive. And it shows the amount of time and energy that went into the planning of this project. And to add on to the winter, we saw the check dams that were put in place and how effective they were. So they did their job. They drastically reduced the amount of sediment that would have been flowing down naturally from this heavy winter. So I think you guys did a great job on the project. I look forward to seeing what's going to continue in the future. And just one more comment on it is I do appreciate the fact that you do not have fence around the whole thing. One of the things about this is you have it very clearly designated sites of where you're supposed to be, but you're not building in a fenced-in area. You're still allowing for that open environment for the people recreating there to have that opportunity. Thank you.
Susan Martinovich, I appreciate what you said about this being a separate report from the BLM report. That was just one of my questions because to me that means it's getting double attention, and so thank you for that. I used to live in that area and would go up there quite a bit, and I was just very impressed with the revegetation efforts where it was closed off and blocked off and allowed people to go their ways. The signage was also really good because you could easily get not tangled up, but just disoriented. Yeah, I mean, so I liked the map above there and then the different colors, and so I was just really thrilled with the effort, and I love before and after pictures, and I think that having these reports really does help document the care, and then if something needs to be done, then we know what it is and we have a base. So thank you.
I was on OSAC when this was turned over to us by BLM. So I've been involved with this from the beginning, and it wasn't like we had an opportunity to decide whether or not this was going to be an OHV area. It was sort of mandated by BLM that this was what we were going to do, so we had to deal with the problem. And from what we received from BLM to what you have done with this is just unbelievable in the short time that we've actually had this land. They did nothing. It was just a free-for-all, and it was a mess when we took it over. And you all have done a remarkable job. And what everybody said as far as the revegetation, and now it's an organized area now, and people know where they can go, where they can't go, what type of vehicles they can use on what portions, and working with Nova, whatever you call that organization. And I went on the tours when they came out to plan it. I went out on some of those tours, and it was very professional and well planned out. And you guys have just done a fantastic job. And I want to say, I have been to some of these types of areas in California. And you talk about being regulated. Everybody complains, well, California, they overregulate. Those areas are trashed compared to what we've got here. And I know that when the international conference was held, quite a few people came out to visit this area. And now this is being considered a model area, and people are going, well, let's talk to Carson City to see what they did. So, you know, it's beautiful. And I know that you guys are monitoring it, are well aware of what you need to be doing next and planning for things. And like Rob said, the check dams did a remarkable job this winter. You were prepared. And nobody knew what we were going to have, but you were ready for it. That was fantastic. So I can't say enough about what you've done. It's just wonderful. So, yeah.
Let me just say, as a runner and a hiker, Greg and Lindsay taking me up to Prison Hill and then on OHVR, that was my first time going off-roading, in the truck, and and you did a great job, Greg. So we made it out alive. I am not born and raised in Carson City, and I've only been here for a few years. But what I've heard about Prison Hill, and then getting out to Prison Hill, and hearing the words that Lindsay and Greg, mentioned about the work that you guys put into it. Balance with a capital B was what I kept hearing time and time again. And that was really the biggest definition and observation that I saw about the area. The areas that you opened and closed and reopened, the signs, just what everyone else has said, it really shows that you guys carry that balance very seriously, to the community. There are a lot of people that just want to roam free, and there are a lot of people that also care about the way that area is, cared for and, monitored and watched over. And I think you do a great job. And I think it's just a testament to the leaders that we have in place, in that department. So I thank you guys and appreciate you taking me out there. And maybe I'll get a dirt bike next time. And Greg, you can go on the back, we'll try it out. So
Yeah, that's going to happen.
thank you.
Wow, that's really nice. I made testimony at the Board of Supervisors on the plan, the fact that I've been involved with 2 planning areas for OHVs and other places in the state, Southern Nevada and kind of Central Nevada. Nothing compares to what you guys do for this OHV park. It's phenomenal. So, and it's a national model. It has to be a national because there's hardly any other models like this in the nation. If there's ever anyone within the city where the locals can take their kids out and learn how to ride OHVs and be safe and have signage so they know where to go or not to go, and ranger presence and clean up. You hit the ball of the park. So I don't have a lot more to say that hasn't been said. That everybody's very eloquent about how they said this, and nothing negative came out of that. I don't know what negative could come out of this. So thank you for that. And I'm going to just close and say that you guys are the best in what you do for OHV parks in this country, as far as I'm concerned. So thank you for that. Was there any other discussion from anybody from what they heard they want to follow up on?
As far as the report, the BLM monitoring, do you get that copy of their report, and could we see that? I'm curious.
Yeah, great question. We do typically receive a copy of the report. They've had a lot of staff turnover over at the BLM, and so there have been issues through the years of continuity between who's doing it, but they do meet that requirement every year. And I don't see a reason why we couldn't request it and bring it here, so I'll make a note of that.
Did you have anything, Sue?
No.
Nope. All right, so there's no more discussion on our part. Let's open for public comment. Thank you.
Denny French, Chair, Board, Committee, Carson City. I appreciate all of your comments. I don't know if we're looking at two different areas sometimes because I didn't find the signage bad. I just found some of it confusing. You'd be on one side, don't go beyond it, and then the other side is suggesting you should know which side to be on. And it was more confusing to me than what it was to you, obviously. So I would like someone to go out with me and explain how come that means what you're trying to have it mean, because that's not what it meant to me. But I'm not saying the signage is bad. I appreciate it. I'd just like it to be clearer. I also would like to suggest that I really appreciated the regrowth areas and the areas that were deterring trans crossings by the way that they maneuvered the soil and put the replants in and such. Appreciate that very much. I had difficulty, I have difficulty knowing we have a triad. I mean, we have a, what do you call it? A matrix here. We have perfect. We have an open space manager that really knows her stuff about bugs and beetles and such. We have a trail coordinator that definitely knows his stuff, and we have a new senior natural resource individual that is very well educated and stuff. And sometimes I just don't quite get the connect where their specialties and their educations, are they guiding this program as much as I feel they really should be? Or are the contractors' equipment deciding the length and breadth of the situation and the locations? And so that's unfortunate because these individuals that I'm sitting next to and then the young lady I haven't met yet are amazing. And some things just don't make sense to me as to with their educations that they would allow, not that they're not keeping the area clean. It was beautiful up there. I was really amazed at the lack of trash and garbage. I appreciated that. And I appreciated that the trails that I could figure out what was an actual trail and what was a road and what would be this. But I went on the non-OHV most of the way up to the summit. And so that was just assumed by the map that there weren't going to be vehicles and that was it. And then when I went to the OHV side, that was the confusing part. When the sign started to say, you don't do it here, you do it here. And it was facing you or it wasn't. And so those things I'd like some clarification on, if it's just me. I don't think it is, though. But I do want to give kudos where it's due. I mean, individuals that have put this much time into their education, I just get puzzled sometimes is we're talking about moving brush to make the trails better and how that affects the environment. But when we're talking a big swath of area, that it doesn't seem to matter, those insects and bugs and things. So I'm just confused as to the difference between an area that we're letting vehicles run on, we're concerned about that. But the area where we're going to have paths, we don't seem to take the insects and the environment as well in hand or in mind. So thank you all, and thank you all for your efforts. And I have no difficulties with appreciating, but I have questions. Another thing I want to bring up.
Denny,
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize we
I
did
brought
me
my own.
Okay,
'Cause I got in
I
trouble
can
for turning
come,
your
I'll
own.
say this in the final, but I do think it's important. So I will talk over my
You got another agenda item you can speak to.
Thank
then.
you.
Thank you. Okay, since it's a non-action item, we move on to discussion and 5D. Discussion possible action regarding a proposed open space advisory committee Annual Awards and Member Services Recognition Program, requested by me. So, myself and Mary and Jay were the committee, without forming a discussion with quorum. Long time ago, there was a proposal that there's two awards. One is the award program, not award, recognition program primarily, I guess, for people that OSAC members, because I've been on 3 other boards in the city, and when I left, I got something to reward me for my hundreds of hours of free time. So I tell people I don't get paid, I get a plaque, so it's better, you know. We don't do it for the plaques. Some people don't even like plaques and awards, but I think it's terrible when you don't recognize people's service on a board in some minimal way to thank them. So one of the proposals for that, in your packet, you saw that there were some alternatives that we visited that made the most sense with the cost, trying to minimize the cost of what it might be for choices here. So one of those is for past board members, and then the next segment was to create an award program to bring credit and recognition to community members and businesses that support this program. It always is a shame to me to see people that give us hundreds of hours and we don't even say thank you, but other than thank you, and recognize them brings us a higher level in the community, brings more people in the community to see what open space does, and gives credit to the people that do a lot of this work. And we've had presentations of people coming in front of this board several times that we're just totally want to share some other way of giving them credit for what they did. So I don't know what more I can say. You've seen the rough draft for, and I circulated that actually too, for how the awards works. And then the other one is the recognition for board members, and the only thing that would be said is that they served a full term, at least one full term. And we hope to keep Robert around with that, so he won't get a plaque if he leaves early, Robert. So I'm looking for your discussion on that point. Any support, changes, which alternative, and then we can move forward with some of the elements of how far back we go to give board members awards without killing the budget and Lindsay shooting me here. And then the other is that this award program doesn't start till next year, if we might want to kickstart it this year early rather than wait clean till next September. So those are what I want you to think about and give me some feedback.
Okay, Rob Guillory for the record. The first question I have on this one would be 2 nominations, right? So you're looking at an organization, nonprofit, business, and then the person has given time. So for that, you're looking at a maximum of 2 awards per year, correct? 1 for each?
2 for each.
2 for each, okay, okay. All right. That
Per
answers-
category.
Per category,
Yeah.
okay, that's what I want clarification on, thank you.
Doesn't have to be 2, but it gives us the ability to do 2.
And then also for when board members leave, so that would be extra on certain years.
Yeah, well, it just depends upon when they leave and and then how far back we want to go. I mean, when I came on a lot of us came on the board, there was a lot of movement off this board at one time. Then that might be like 4 or 5 plaques, and then if they left, I think I'd ask them if they want one. I mean, I hate giving them out if the ones that just look at you and then they go home and hide them in a cupboard somewhere. Go ahead, Mary.
I also would like to see people from the past looked at and possibly given these awards, because I know that there are a lot of organizations and individuals in town that really deserve them. So I wonder if we could have a set number, depending on the budget, that we can get these out starting now. You know, we can start talking about who they might be.
Well, that would be Lindsay's going to help us with that, and maybe Jen might have to help too. But hopefully Lindsay can. Can you answer that now, or do you want us to make the motion first? Otherwise, you don't have to.
I'm so sorry, Lindsay Boyer, for the record. I was answering that or
Oh,
silencing my phone. Could you
lost the
repeat the
gold
question,
star on
please?
your chart for that.
So what was the question?
It's all right. Go back to board members for awards, for the recognition ones. So not the award ones, but for the recognition ones.
Mm-hmm.
Or organizations, like prior organizations that would,
Oh, we can do that for the awards too, but I
Yeah.
don't know if we can load up any more than the 4. Because when we talked, it was 4. She said that can be handled at that price for the award program. The recognition, we never talked dollars.
Sure. So, I mean, I think that as we've discussed in previous meetings, we all agree that recognition for past members as well as people who have been involved in the open space program is important. I think I can think of a few members who should have received some kind of recognition upon departure, and so I would like to, honor that. So I think we can accommodate in the budget. I can't think of any businesses specifically that we'd want to retroactively or organizations that we'd retroactively support, but I can think of some moving forward we might want to nominate, but certainly recognition for some of those past members I think would be important.
That, that the organization or any of that would come out under the nomination. It may be an organization that 5 years ago did something. There's nothing that says there's a limit to the amount of, in the past of when they would be nominated. So I would suspect that they could be picked up there. I would think it's more of the recognition of past OSAC members that we want to make sure we capture that recognition. But in addition, some of them may be the category 2, the person who gave that financial or who gave that services to the program as well. So they could be captured under both.
Sure. Like Bruce Scott, yeah. Any other comments, suggestions? And I don't know how the motion's written. Where did I do my agenda? Well, if there's, can't make a motion yet till I have public comment, but I was curious what I did right for possible action. Yeah, just simple motion. So is there anything, so can I summarize this a little bit, I guess? So we're gonna look for recognition, the motion should carry that, and that we go back. I would be comfortable if we didn't go back any farther than when well, I shouldn't say that. When Bruce Scott left, there were like 4 people that left. I don't know, all of them had, I know there were a few on there that had more than one term that were on there for a while, like Marcy, and I think there was another gentleman that was on there for a long time. So maybe I come back with that number at the next meeting with their names and a number so we can maybe speak to that better. And then, so the motion would approve that, but the action would be later after it's approved to do that, which doesn't have to be in the motion. Am I confusing people when I just said that?
But I suppose we can agree on which award.
Well, it's not awards that we're doing yet, it's just the recognition.
But I'm just talking about.
Oh, which one?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, well, that's another point of discussion.
We could approve, vote on that now.
Yeah, we can do that, and we can vote on the motion to give recognition, but we don't have a time frame yet. Would it make more sense to put a time frame back of 4 or 5 years? At least we're getting a number for them. 5 years back, and then look at what that means. With the next meeting, we'll see what the heck that means. Okay, that's for recognition. And then what award of the 3 you see there, of the alternatives, what would make the most sense for and these can be smaller and have a desktop stand, so that you can put them on a desk instead of a wall. And the ones freestanding, the first alternative's freestanding.
Mr. Chair, I like the picture. Pictures are fun and they can be standalone, maybe even something on the back so it doesn't get just put into a closet, that it's a nice picture would be my recommendation.
That's what Open Space gave me when I left, that one. Well, not Open Space, the Carson River Group. Crack, yeah, well, thanks.
Well, if we went with the picture, then would be appropriate to ask Lindsay and or her team to use one of the mini photos that you guys are proud of. That could be a rotating thing. It doesn't have to be the same photo over and over again. But that way it's showing off the different variations of open space in Carson City.
Okay, so we got part of that done. We've talked, but we haven't passed the motion. So we're going to have the picture for recognition, go back 5 years, and bring that back to the next meeting. So the second half of this motion is for the awards. So either we wait till next fall to, if we pass this motion as written in the writing that we did do to explain all this, does it make sense that we do one now and next fall too, or just wait till next fall? Comments?
Well, I think we could do the past board members this year and then do the rest next year.
Okay.
That makes sense.
You got a
to
lot
me.
of shaking heads down
I
here,
would,
so-
that's what I was going to recommend as well as
Cool.
too. So let's take care of
So that we
recognition.
don't do it on overburden financially this
Or
year.
dilute them. We don't want to dilute it with so
Yeah.
many
Oh,
people.
let's get
Yeah.
awards. Yeah, we
But
take up half
I
the
would
meeting.
see so the way I would word this is I move we approve the proposed award program as presented and do the award past board members this year.
The recognition. There's award.
Recognize the past board members this year, up to 5 board members.
Okay, hang on, till we vote, I gotta call public comment first before we vote. But no, I'm just gonna let it go until I have public comment, then I'll go see if she can
Do it again?
do it again.
Oh, you're asking a lot of me.
Yeah, well, that's why you're the VP here. You get to do that. So we call, I'm gonna call for public comment before we vote then, so.
Denny French, Carson City, Nevada. Recognition is so important. One of the things human beings need is acknowledgement, recognition, sense of appreciation for their efforts. So I'm all for that, and in lieu of kissing butt straight up, it's how I feel. And you know what, Donna? I don't read lips, but I do pay attention to motions and such, and the high eyebrows and whatever. It's important. You don't have a lot of community here to speak up, and I am not good at speaking up, but I do want to say I do appreciate people's efforts, and I think it's important they know it. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And Denny, you don't have any trouble speaking up whether you think you do or not, so. That's a talent you have of speaking up. Just to let you know that. Feedback. You do a good job. Thank you. Somewhat. Well, that's good. That's better than nothing. All right, I bring it back here for any discussion or a motion. Can you do it again?
I move to approve the proposed award program as presented and to recognize previous board members up to 5 in the last 5 years. Does that make sense?
Made sense to me.
I second.
It made sense to him. Any other discussion?
Did it clear the attorney and everybody?
He's looking. He hasn't said a word. He hasn't given me a flag yet.
I just wanted to make sure, Lindsay, did you understand what's been discussed in the motion as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Not good.
I've been picking on Lindsay for a long time with this.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, who seconded?
Robert,
Thank you.
okay, not any more discussion. I call for the question. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? None. Carries unanimous. Thank you very much, guys. Great. I won't have to pick on Lindsay anymore every meeting.
We'll
5,
find something else.
yeah, I'll find something else. 5D, or E, let's try.
Yeah, E.
The E, review and discussion, the Open Space Advisory Committee Experience Matrix. And to remind everybody, this matrix came out of the retreat, and that was one of the comments made that we do a matrix, this board. And show, to share with each person on the board to understand the experience that all your members bring to this board, which is pretty phenomenal, actually. If we fill out that matrix, I think we'll fool a lot of people with experience that's on this board. So I sent out a rough draft. I got a little carried away, and then Susan reviewed it a little bit too. So it's certainly yours to make comments about or make any changes to, because it's a pretty comprehensive matrix. So, and none of us get paid for having the most knowledge on the matrix, though. That would be nice.
I have a question. Oh, I'm still got a green light, just. So in filling this out, what is the plan on filling it out? Do we do a 0 to 3 as to how much knowledge we have about these, or just an X or 0?
I never thought of that. I was thinking X's, but what you said makes sense too. I don't,
Because, I got a.
maybe limit it to 1, 2, 3 instead of up to 10 or something.
Yeah, I was thinking 1 to 3 with a 0 for none, because I have a lot of experience in some of this and a little bit in some and none in some.
I don't, what does the board think of that? Doing 1, 2, 3 instead of an X?
What's I know what we had for the intent of it, but then who's the audience does it matter if you have a lot for one topic or a little for another topic, just that maybe you have some experience? And so as we're talking on a subject, we could look to see, hey, Mark, you're big on fishing, or you put an X on fishing. So if there was a fishing item, I guess I just don't want to make more work if we don't need to have more work.
I understand. Those are valid comments. None of me wants to do work and take the time to fill it out, and it gets stuck on a shelf and nobody even looks at it. So, yeah. Any other thoughts?
Sorry,
be
Susan
sorry.
Martinovich. I think that the intent of this was so that we could bring what skills we needed or have as a board, and then almost see where there's a gap in order for the Open Space Committee to, bring information. So that's why I think that by having just maybe X's, we can see if nobody has any camping, then, it might be hard to talk about a future subject of that. And so maybe this was also more of a gap and then a going forward for new members to see where there might be areas that we'd want to focus new members' matrix or skills on as well.
Which would go to the Board of Supervisors, so we would have to get some support that we can give them a list of what we want, that they would support that, and I would assume they would.
Yeah, and it would be
Assume
based
that.
on some data that we have from this matrix.
Right. I think that was part of the vision of why it was put on the retreat, I think. So this is not an action item, it's just so if we agree, then that matrix can be shipped out to be X'd, or I think, is X become the choice maybe instead of 1, 2, 3?
That would be fine.
Yeah, I'd agree with the X. I'd just add one thing, that the environmental would be any sort of botany or noxious weed experience. That's the one thing I don't see on there.
Can you write that on your, oh, you don't have a hard copy, huh? Yeah, you can do that. You can edit the PDF.
Mr. Chair, I've
Yes.
made note of that, and I also added OHV under outdoor activities.
Okay.
I think that would be valuable as well.
Yes.
And can we have this in a form that we can just do online and don't have
Sure.
to do it on paper, please?
PDF can make forms.
Yeah, Lindsay Boyer for the record. So I think what we can do to roll this out is I can turn this into some kind of fillable form, send it out to all of you, and then that way I can capture all of the experience that we have on the committee currently. And then I also see this as a tool, if we have a new member come on, this would be kind of part of their onboarding to let us know what sort of skill sets they have. And then, as you noted, it helps us identify gaps for future recruitment efforts, so.
I think that's why it was discussed, so that's great. So we moved on with that? Not yet. I got public comments, non-action, but you can come up, Danny, if you want to. You're the only person in the room now, so don't have to call for more.
Denny French, Commission Chair. I take this very seriously. I read into things as much as I can. I try to understand, but I haven't gotten a clear definition of what matrix is, and unfortunately in the material I have here, I don't find a definition. I looked up matrix and it meant a whole different thing. I used it earlier in the suggestion that the talents of three people working together on a problem from their perspectives. It could be three groups, or in this case, I suggested three individuals, plus then you'd have to add in the management aspect of it, which would be Jennifer Budge, and then the boards and such. So it's not quite a threesome as far as a deal. But a matrix really is 3 points, and it has a whole different definition of what I'm hearing here. So a definition of that would be helpful. I appreciate it so I can understand where you're coming from this discussion. Otherwise, it's fairly foreign to me. Thank you.
Chair. Mr. Chair, before you move on, I just simply wanted to note for the record that the experience matrix that you all are referencing was provided in the supporting materials when the agenda was sent out. It's I understand it, Denny. I understand this. My comment was also just wanting to clarify that from one of the chair's comments at the beginning of this. I just wanted to make sure it was on the record that this was sent out as part of the packet. Okay.
Thank you. I was sitting here in silence trying to figure out how I could summarize it exactly. Thank you very much for that.
I have a question.
Sure.
Under environmental EA experience,
Say that again.
under environmental EA experience, what is it?
Environmental assessment, NEPA.
NEPA.
She can change NEPA.
Robert has an X, I have an X. Oh, sorry.
Well, Elon Musk has the X's too, so we can all, we're in the X generation now. There was an X on the door when we came in here tonight I couldn't figure out. A big red X on the door.
Yeah, I was gonna ask what's the big red X on the door
So-
mean?
I don't know.
If you look on the inside, there's a green check.
Oh, there is? Oh. Well, I just hoped everything worked out for some reason. All right, well, I got off track here and I can be punished for that. So, all right, let's go back to new item is the 5F, review and discussion of what the bylaws, specifically to review the Open Space Committee mission statement. And Susan gets to have this one.
I get this one. Susan Martinovich, thank you, Mr. Chair, is that on our workshop, or in our workshop on December 16th, there was a question and discussion regarding the bylaws, and a lot of comments were asked as part of the packet that was sent to you. Our original bylaws were provided, and the comments were also provided. And so at a couple meetings ago, a small subcommittee was formed with Robert and Sam, and we, the intent of what we're going to do is that I wanted to bring this to the meeting today to get any comments from our other board members, and then take those comments. The three of us will develop a statement to be brought forward at a future meeting, and then hopefully with not a whole lot of wordsmithing and discussion, because you gave us the authority as a subcommittee to make the recommendation, but we'll take into any comments, any thoughts, and then come back with a recommendation for adoption at a future meeting.
Any comments to that?
One other item is, excuse me, Lindsay said that, or provided the processes, that it does have to go to the Board of Supervisors as a change in the bylaws. So so we would get the adoption from this OSAC board, and then subsequently it would go to the Board of Supervisors.
I think I want to add to that. So with that statement, when looking at this mission statement for potential changes, we really want to be able to make sure there's strong justification of why we're making that change to go to the Board of Supervisors. My big change that I'm going to be proposing, I do feel like there is justification because since the last time this mission was put together, the open space has acquired lands that's required active recreation, not just passive. So I think it's important to make that change, but the other stuff that we do, if we do look to add any more or change anything else, we just got to make sure that we're not just changing it to change it, but that there's good justification in the change.
And that came out of a retreat where we were all there with,
Yes.
you know, with input from the public too. So, and all the staff was there too. Any other comments? I'm just a little, I know what I would like to see for words in there, but there's no proposal yet. There's no draft to make comments yet, so I don't know where I'm at with that.
Where, Mr. Chair, I put in this that the OSAC committee can send any comments or thoughts to me, and my email is there, and then I will bring them forward to the committee to consider and review.
Okay.
Review and consider.
So I did something as a type A retired guy and put together this, it's word art it's called. And it's not in an official package, so I'm handing it out with the knowledge that I just did this. So you'll see what it is, and it has words in there. I don't know if you know what word art is.
Oh,
or
yeah,
not,
I use them.
I brought enough copies for everybody. Yeah, I got tons of them right there. So I did that for fun, but not really, but for thoughts for people when they're working on the mission statement. To me, I'd like to make that the mission statement, but I think it's out of character for bureaucracies to have that become a reality. So I can't, since it wasn't agendized, I can't talk about the fact that and endorse it in any way. It's just something for the board members to review as they think about changes sent in. So I keep myself out of trouble with presenting stuff, but that's what retired people do when they have spare time on their hands.
Again, Mr. Chair, you know, a mission statement, so the definition of a mission statement is it describes the purpose for the present and the future. Basically, why do we exist? So that's something that we can definitely looking at how we do business today, and why are we even here spending the time. So that will be the guiding principle, the North Star, in our evaluation of the statement.
All right,
So again, if there are any comments or questions, please feel free to reach out. In the meantime, I'll work with our committee members and with Lindsay about having something on a future board meeting. Reality is, I guess I can say this, is I will not be able to be at our October meeting, and so I'm going to be looking to bring it to our December meeting.
you know, nothing pressing that
Okay.
the mission statement.
We are going to have a meeting on October 18th.
If we have a quorum, which I assume we will.
It's the 16th. In your packet, there's a future agenda items, and that has all of the current dates. I know there's been some back and forth and confusion. I appreciate your guys' patience, but that has the current situation as of today.
This discussion only, won't vote, but then you have a chance for public comment if you want it, sir? No, that's not even part of the package. That was just a handout by me. To inspire the board members. So did you want to make comment, or are you okay this time? All right, thank you. So we'll move on to item
Mr. Chair, before you move on,
Oh,
I just wanted to jump in real quick. When you have all the board members giving feedback to another board member, that's getting close to what might be considered a violation of the open meeting law. If I could ask if any of the board members have particular comments, if they could direct them to Lindsay, and then Lindsay can compile them and present them to the board at a later date.
so let me clarify that then. So the comments we want to make to the mission statement, we have to give to Lindsay, not to the committee that's assigned to do it?
It, if I could have them directed to Lindsay in the first place, I mean, obviously, if you're on the committee, feel free to direct them to the committee. If you're not on the committee, please direct them to Lindsay so that we don't have too many.
Well, if you're not on the committee.
Yeah, if you're not on the committee, and I assume this is a subcommittee?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And so if any board members are not on the subcommittee, please direct your comments to Lindsay, and Lindsay can then share the comments as appropriate.
So if you're in the three, they can talk to each other, but the rest of us talk to Lindsay, if I heard you right.
Correct.
Okay, well, that's a new procedure, is new to me, so thank you for that. One more lesson to be learned. So I don't think we've had any other actions that we've done as a subcommittee that's broken that rule, so I think this is the first one in my tenure on this board, as I think in the past, so we're doing all right. So it just gives you more work, Lindsay, so. I'm sorry. We're all right. So the communications essentially between Lindsay and Susan, being the chair of that subcommittee, is what we'd like it to be, yeah.
Correct.
Okay, good. Thank you for that. All right, so we're on staff updates, number 6. The director's reports. And under this item, you're going to speak to the field trip, right? Lindsay, on your item, I was assuming? Okay, then that's when I'll get feedback from the board. All right, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you,
Chair.
Director. Yes.
Jennifer Budge, Parks and Recreation Director. I just wanted to take this time to thank the staff for helping. We have had a lot of big grants coming up, some for the Open Space Division, but some bigger ones for the department, one for Mills Park in particular.
Yeah, I
for
saw
$2 million. It was a all hands on deck
Yeah.
type situation. But I really wanted to thank Lindsay and Greg for helping out in particular with that. I mean, their expertise with grants is abundant and they're so helpful. And we have a lot of other staff kind of learning that process and trying to figure their way through that. And they've just been amazing. So that's really all I had to say. And we have full-time and part-time positions available.
You
So
keep
check out the
trying.
website.
All right, that's the director's report. Accolades for staff, that's great. Good job. 6B, Trail Coordinators Report. Mr. Bergman.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. Greg Bergeron, Trails Coordinator for the record. Okay, so I think that I have been reporting on progress on the Capitaho Trail since I've been here, probably every trails update. So we finally had the grand opening celebration in July. It was a great day, beautiful weather. Mayor Bagwell cut the ribbon, and we had all the partners there from Muscle Powered, State Parks, the Forest Service, members Kimbrough and Emerson were there, and Supervisor Schutte and White. So yeah, it was a great day. I got a few photos, and if you look on the second page, I love the photo of our director, Jen, with our open space maintenance coordinator, Jared Whitaker. They are happily serving Capitaho Pale Ale at the event, which was quite popular. So anyway, the trail is open, and there is a 2-mile section that remains to be completed, which is right now we're using Snow Valley Peak Road as the connection, but that is well underway and should be completed within the next few weeks. So certainly by the end of the season, that one will be done. And it's pretty exciting to have that open. And also, just to mention again, Visit Carson City is working on a promotion for that trail, which will entail some kind of prizes for the first people to walk from the steps of the Capitol all the way to Mexico and all the way to Canada. So if anybody has an interest in that, let me know. All right. Something else that we've done recently, we created a West Side Trails map. And it is, if you, it's downloadable to your mobile device. It's pretty comprehensive list of or map of all the trails on the west side of town, including trails that aren't administered by our department. It's got state park trails and Forest Service trails on there. If you download the Avenza app on your phone, you can use the QR code to download the map, and then you can scroll in, scroll out, and it will put you, you can navigate in real time, so it will put your location on whatever trail you are on that map. So very, very handy map to have, and we will be placing that on all of our new kiosk signs on the west side of town as well. All right, so a little bit of an update on trail conditions following the epic winter of 2023. Obviously, the trails in the river area took a hit. I do want to mention that Buzzy's Ranch Trail, which is one of our newer trails, where we are building trails now to be much more sustainable and resilient. And it survived with just a couple of very, very minor pieces of damage that we can fix easily in-house. Riverview Park Trails took a pretty strong hit. We started working in Riverview Park today, and we'll be working for the next 3 days in Riverview Park. We closed one trail today, and we're going to close the entire park for the next 2 days while we're working in there with equipment. And that's just, we're closing it for safety. So Riverview is underway. The Empire Ranch Trail took a hit. We're going to do most of those repairs in-house. We've already done clearing or masticating of all the vegetation there. And that's one of the things that we really experienced this year more than most. In the driest state in the Union, we had so much vegetation growth on the trails this year. It was crazy. And our biggest complaint among visitors was that they were trying to, fight their way through all this growth. We have trails where we've masticated twice already this year. I guess this is what it feels like to live in a state other than Nevada. But anyway, it was new for us.
Glad we aren't Oregon, or you'd be out every year 3 times.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, we'd have to have a different kind of a maintenance budget. So that's kind of the report on some of our bigger trails down by the river. We had a little bit of damage on some trails. Some of the single track, Muscle Power took care of Bob's Trail. They did a little bit of a realignment on that. That one got kind of washed out. And so yeah, the maintenance is well underway. Prison Hill Trail West project. So that is our Snipplemup project that will be completing a 2.5-mile multi-use pathway on the west side of Prison Hill, along with improvements to the Coons Lane trailhead, and then a safe street crossing of Edmonds Drive at Coons Lane. And that is in the planning right now. And as I mentioned earlier, there will be an open house October 10th, 5 to 6:30 p.m. And this says Bonanza Room. We changed that to the theater lobby. And yeah, and then we'll be back here on the October 16th to present the 30% plans as well. So you'll all get a chance to look at those and review them. And then I've got some photos of a few of our volunteer projects. National Trails Day, we did some work brushing the vegetation on the North Kings Loop, and we had to do it again already. We had Patagonia came down for 2 different days of trail maintenance on the V&T extension and the Foothill Trail. Clickbond did a cleanup on their adopted trail. And then photos that I have to apologize to a couple of Eagle Scouts that I totally neglected to put in their projects. Chris Collins, he did the Carson River Canyon signage, and that hit the paper. That was in a couple of, and I think it was Carson now and the Nevada Appeal. And then Chris Borges did an alignment of a trail on Prison Hill, another fall line trail. He made a more sustainable connection, and I love hiking and riding on that new connection that he made. So I'll put some photos in for next time for you. And then lastly, I want to mention that our department recently acquired an all-terrain wheelchair. It's a Grit Freedom chair. And we're going to incorporate that into some of our ranger programs so that if somebody has a disability or they have a family member that needs assistance, they want to be able to come out of one of our ranger programs, which we have our rangers. I mean, I can't compliment them enough. They do an outstanding job. With their whole programming is incredible. And this will give, hopefully, an opportunity to some other folks to be able to attend some of those ranger programs, and we'll report on how that works out. So with that, I'll take any questions that the committee may have.
Any questions? Robert?
This is just a question. So at the Square Pond trailhead, there's an abandoned vehicle that's there. Do you guys have any success getting a salvage title to be able to remove it?
So of course, that vehicle went off of Ash Canyon Road on Forest Service property, and the Forest Service found a volunteer organization to extract the vehicle, and we have been really kind of pushing them to get it out of where it is. Right now, they have some policies and procedures they have to work through related to timing and noticing and things like that. And they've also had some issues with, apparently with, they have a tow service that is supposed to take the vehicle and tow it to their location when they have room, is what we've been told. So I don't know if Lindsay has any other.
So you're waiting on the Forest Service.
So we're waiting on the Forest Service, and yeah, we are.
Any other comments? Questions?
Just
Yeah.
2 quick questions. One is that I really like the idea of that all-terrain wheelchair. How are we letting people know that that is something that they can utilize if they want to?
Yeah, it's a great question. So the Rangers, when they start updating or placing their programs on the website and in our activities guide, they will, for the activities that this trailer may be useful, it will be listed in there as an option, and then somebody can let us know in advance if that's something that they want to try, and then we can make sure that it's available.
Excellent. And then another quick question. The budget, a lot of the fixing from the impact, where is that in the open space budget? Will it impact our overall budget? Because we didn't anticipate the winter. So how will our overall budget be impacted with that?
Great question. So the 2 sources of funds that we typically use to support these kinds of projects, whether it's the materials or the contractor to come in and do the work. So we have a professional services line item and we have a maintenance management line item. Those are our 2 biggest account numbers that we have within the budget, because it ends up being a catch-all for most of our activities. And so those are well budgeted.
Okay.
And so I don't foresee any issues of exceeding what we had previously budgeted, because in past years, we never spent the entire amount that was allocated in
Excellent.
those items.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Donna?
Couple. The Empire Trail, the east section along the golf course, this is not the first time that this has been badly damaged and has had to be repaired. You say something about you're going to reroute it? Is that the section you're going to reroute?
Correct. So there's about 1,000 feet that connects from Riverview Park north towards to Eagle Creek Bridge. Right. The first 1,000 feet of that is the part that was really wiped out,
From
and
Morgan
you're
Mill
correct.
to
It
the
was
bridge.
wiped out before too. So the trail exists on an old road, and it's kind of the lowest spot in that area. So our intention is to realign it just above the road, and we don't want to raise. Because we're working in the river corridor, we don't want to raise it above the existing level, but we will take it above to a higher point or higher place than the existing trail. So,
The river wants that. Let's be honest, the river wants that piece of land. This is the second time it's taken it out. I used to lead hikes along that section before the bridge was put in over the ditch. And what we would do is we would go that section and then along the south end and then into the development and back to Morgan Mill along Morgan Mill Road. Is there a possibility of creating a trail along Morgan Mill Road and just abandoning that section? And, you know, the monies that we keep putting into that section to repair it, making a trail along Morgan Mill Road and rerouting it, the trail along Morgan Mill Road through the development and along the south side of the golf course to the bridge.
A couple of things. I'm not exactly sure. Are you thinking of, so taking it from Morgan Mill, you would take it into the
West
Empire
along-
Ranch Road?
Morgan Mill Road. Along the west side,
Mhm.
west along Morgan Mill Road to the development, the housing development, through that, and then along the west side of the golf course, there's a little bit of trail. You go leave the
Right.
housing development, and then on the south side of the golf course, there's the trail to get back to the bridge.
Okay, so I think, yeah, well, the trail back to once you get back to the bridge, then you still have another segment that got damaged, which would go south from the bridge to Riverview Park. But in lines along what you're talking about, yes. So we are working towards an easement across a private piece of property that would enable us to continue the Mexican Ditch Trail all the way into to the Empire Ranch Trailhead. And so that would be another connection that would be made that would be higher, I mean, much higher, so it wouldn't be wiped out by high water along the river. The other component of that is, however, that the Empire Ranch Trail along the river is one of the favored trails among the public, and whenever it is damaged, the phone calls start pouring in. People love that trail, and it is unfortunately stuck between the river and the golf course. There's really not much room for it, and so we just keep fixing it. And
That's what I'm saying, let's abandon that and find a different route around the golf club, around the golf course. And because the river wants it, and it's costly to keep repairing it, and if we could build another trail around the golf course the other way and spend the money we keep pouring into rebuilding that trail.
yeah, so far we haven't really spent a whole lot of money on it. The first time it was wiped out, FEMA did the repair. And the repairs that we're going to do this year are mostly in-house, fairly small repairs, with the exception of the Empire or the Eagle Creek segment, which is going to be mostly funded through our Recreational Trails Program grant. And I think when we relocate that segment, that 1,000 feet, when we relocate that out of the old road that it's in and put it higher, I think it will be a lot more protected.
Now, is that on the north or south side of the bridge?
It's on the south side of the bridge, but to the west of the existing segment of trail.
Okay, yeah, because
So-
I know that trail gets
Right.
damaged
Yeah.
because it's too close to the river.
Yeah.
Okay, I just, there's another route around the golf course as opposed to being right next to the river. I know it's popular, but the river seems to want that section of the trail.
Yeah, no, it does. You're absolutely correct. And I think, like I said, we're working on that easement to extend the Mexican Ditch Trail, which will be a much more sustainable option. And so in the future, if it becomes unrealistic to continue maintaining the trail next to the river, then there will be other options.
Okay, and my other thing is regarding the west side trail. I would really recommend that we quit calling that a trail, and the same with any of those, and change it to paths. Because they're not trails. People think of trails as the single track, the 3-foot wide single track, and paths have a different concept. They're normally 10 to 12 foot wide, I guess because I'm so used to thinking of rails to trails, and they're 10 to 12 foot wide paths. And there's a different concept for them. They're more social in usage. People stop, visit with each other, and that has an important usage for those, for a need, then that people have meet and greet and also get to know more people. They make friends on those paths, and they're very important physically and emotionally. And so it's a different concept, and I think people, that's where we're getting some arguments. I happened to go to that first meeting you had a Friday morning, I don't know, a while back, and people were objecting to them, saying, well, they shouldn't be so wide because they're trails, but they're not trails, they're paths. And it seems to me if we redesignated them and made people understand that they're different from trails, they're not trails, they're paths.
Yeah, no, that's a good comment, and I think, there is definitely a difference between a multi-use pathway and a single-track trail, and realistically, there's not much in between. It is very difficult to build a hardened surface or a harder surface trail, with imported materials, that is less than 10 feet wide, because you can't bring in construction equipment to build something that, we can be, there's equipment and volunteers and staff and things to build single track. But when you go to a multi-use pathway, trying to make something less than 10 feet is very, very expensive, because you can't hire a traditional construction company to do that. And that's what you need when you're importing materials to put on the trail. So, but anyway, that's an aside, but you're correct that we do need to distinguish between single track and multi-use pathways.
They're a different concept entirely, and a different use, and different people do different things for different reasons. So those are just my 2 comments.
Sam, did you have anything? Can you tell me how many miles you have on that west map? Miles of trail, right off the top of your head?
I can't. I could report to you next time.
Stump
I
Greg.
have all the KMZ files, and I could add them all up.
I would love to see that number of miles of trail.
Well,
on
actually,
that
no.
west
I
map.
have it in a spreadsheet, but I don't have it with
figured
me.
it's in a spreadsheet
Yeah.
somewhere. I mean, that number is a wow number, and it should be part of what you're putting on the map, actually, that there's 300 miles of trail within 5 minutes of where you live here. So I was curious. I saw it in the newspaper how those 2 young boys, the Eagle Scout projects, got away with not making a presentation. Did they go in front of? No, not you guys. This is another program. I watched you as soon as you came in, and we got you. Now we're making you just be worried for a few minutes before the presentation is all. So I just wonder how did they make because that's usually part of the Eagle Scout project is they got to make a public presentation.
Oh, the other 2?
Oh.
Oh, absolutely.
Those are the ones that were a long time ago?
Oh, they were a long time ago. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought one of them was familiar. Okay, that answers that. I wondered how they got away with that part.
No,
Because
they can't
that's an
get-
important
they can't
part
get away
of
with
the
it.
program, yeah, to do that. All right, well, I stumped you on the miles, and so I'll leave you alone from any other comments other than you do a great job, Greg. Wonderful job. Thank you. All right, so now we go to 6C. I guess you're wearing both hats. We don't get to meet the new person yet. Danny, I didn't put it on the public comment yet because there's just reports. Oh, Danny wants him to go first.
Okay.
Let us finish one more report, Denny. Thank you for your comment, though. You got to remember, you got to use the mic and take the floor before you do that. So thank you for that. It's all right. Thanks, Denny. All right, so let's do the reports, and then we'll get to the young man here that's here. Thanks.
Perfect. Thank you. For the record, Lindsay Boyer, Open Space Manager. Discussing the Senior Natural Resource Specialist and Open Space Manager report. Unfortunately, Marina Lovejoy, our new Senior Natural Resource Specialist, she is on vacation, so she could not be here today, but I will bring her to a future meeting so you all have a chance to meet her. But she and I put together this report, just giving you an overview of some of the activities we've been working on over the last few months. So back in June, right when Marina started, we went out to the north end of Prison Hill and we did some monitoring of the fire that happened in that area. So we've been collecting vegetation samples for the last few years ever since the fire, as well as doing repeat photo monitoring. So same kind of concept to be able to track progress over time. After this epic winter, we were super excited to see just how much re-veg had been happening on the hill. You can see in this photo here, it was a field of wildflowers when we were visiting the site back in June. So that was really amazing to see. We are seeing more growth happening on the north slopes versus the south. That's typical of any restoration project. But those southern exposed slopes may need some additional attention in the future, but the north-facing slopes are looking great. We will continue that monitoring effort in future years to track the success of the reseeding effort that was completed out there. Other items in the monitoring realm, staff completed the Silver Saddle Ranch architectural monitoring earlier this summer. So this is an annual reporting requirement that we have to provide to the State Historic Preservation Office to show that the historic buildings out at Silver Saddle are in good condition, and to be able to track any changes with those buildings over time. So we are in the process of compiling that report, but we can bring that to the committee when it's completed. And again, that's an annual reporting requirement. Other monitoring that we completed this past summer, we did bird surveys out at the Buzzy's Ranch Trail as well as Riverview Park. This is a continuation of surveys that we've been doing since 2019. The goal of these surveys was to be able to track any changes in bird diversity over time with the building of the Buzzy's Ranch Trail. And so we use Riverview Park as kind of a comparison as an area that's had trails for a long time compared to the relatively new trail at Buzzy's Ranch, since these are both important migratory bird areas. This year's sampling got a little off because two of the sites were not accessible. They were underwater at Riverview Park, so we didn't have as many monitoring sites as we normally do. But one thing I did want to note is that we recorded more unique species in both areas this year than in previous years. So those are species that are, outside of the run-of-the-mill kind of normal guys that we see in the river corridor. So that was really neat to see. We've been working with some bird enthusiasts, some volunteers who have helped us out with these surveys, and that's been really great, as well as they're very talented birders. So that's been a good addition to our program. Also related to the Carson River and some monitoring that we've been doing in that area. So many of you may be aware of the Canada Thistle Biocontrol project that we've been working on for the past few years. This is a naturally occurring rust fungus that targets Canada thistle specifically and disrupts the plant's ability to reproduce. So we've been applying this rust fungus at a site out at the Mexican Dam for several years now. And when we first started doing this effort, when we went out, the site was almost entirely invaded with Canada thistle. And then now, since we've been doing it for almost 5 years, we have seen a total reduction in the amount of Canada thistle that's out there. And the site is now mostly dominated by corn lily, which is a native plant that grows in riparian areas. We do still have Canada thistle growing out there, but it has not flowered in the last several years, which is pretty amazing to see. So it's really suppressing that population. And has been a really good example of being able to rely on something besides herbicide to treat a noxious weed. So that was been kind of an exciting project. Also related to the Carson River, so staff have been working with our chair, Kimbrough, on a Carson River Master Plan update. This is also in conjunction with the National Parks, Rivers, Trails, and Conservation Assistance Program. So we've been working with them since 2022 to update the Carson River Master Plan, which was completed in 1996. So it's pretty outdated and is time for an update. it's been kind of a slow to start. They had to work us into their schedule to be able to provide that assistance, but we're really starting to gear up and working with them. And so kind of we've been in a strategic planning effort for the last 6 months or so, identifying which partners we want to bring into the fold and how we want to start disseminating the information to these partners to start having discussions. So right now we're kind of working on a baseline mapping effort. We've also had one meeting with the Carson Water Subconservancy District to bring them in as a major partner on this project, since they have so much to do with watershed management. And so we have a subsequent meeting coming up with them to continue our discussions related to planning. So it's been a lot of strategic planning so far, but once we have something a little bit more tangible, I'll definitely be bringing that to the committee for an update for you guys. Also related to the Carson River and to the watershed as a whole, back in June, CWSD held their Get on the Bus tour, which for those of you who haven't been on it, this is a 2-day watershed-wide, super comprehensive tour of the Carson River watershed. They start in Alpine County and they go all the way down to the Carson Sink. Greg, Marina, and Chelsea from our staff all had the opportunity to attend. I've been on it myself. Greg and I also were featured as guest speakers. So this is a really great tour. They kind of took some off years with COVID, but typically they do it every year. So this would definitely be something that would be beneficial for you to all attend next year if you're available. Moving along related to the river. So out at Buzzy's Ranch, with the winter that we had this past year, we did see some pretty significant erosion issues along the river. And this is an area of the riverbank where we have seen erosion in the past, but certainly the high flows this year exacerbated that quite a bit. So you'll notice within your packet, I provided some photos as well as some aerial imagery of the meander there, and just kind of illustrating how much it's moved over time. Now, here in the Carson River watershed, we do have a living river approach, meaning we more or less let the river do its thing. But when there are infrastructure that are potentially at risk with our brand new Buzzy's Ranch Trail, as well as just the loss of agricultural land at this location, it does warrant perhaps some intervention. And I just wanted to note, looking at this imagery, we've lost over 150 feet of bank since 1990, so that's pretty dramatic. So one thing that we've done to try to figure out how to address this is we've been working with a consultant who's undertaken some modeling and soil studies just to kind of understand what's the erosive potential here. Have we reached our greatest extent? Is this just going to continue to erode? How quickly do we need to be moving on a bank stabilization project here? It should be noted that to do a fully permitted bank stabilization project, working with the Army Corps of Engineers and the state lands, it will be a very expensive and time-intensive project. And so we want to make sure that we're, doing the right thing and undertaking what's appropriate. That project could be anywhere in the $100,000 to $200,000 range. So we definitely would need to go out for grants for that, and it would need to be well studied. We'd have to have an engineer design. So, it would be a big undertaking. So I think that's kind of where some of that modeling comes into play to help us understand and justify the need to move forward with that. But as you can see from these photos and from the aerial imagery, it's definitely an area of concern. And so I'm waiting for the results of those studies to come back now. An update related to water rights. So on July 20th, the Board of Supervisors reviewed our draft management plan for Buzzy's Ranch, and also heard our presentation regarding our overall water rights acquisition project at Buzzy's. So they did provide us authorization to move forward with the due diligence that's needed to review this whole water rights acquisition process further. So kind of where we've gone since then, we've met with some of our internal city departments to kind of discuss if there's any internal water rights options that we need to evaluate before we go back to our partner with kind of our more comprehensive strategy of this is what is going to need to be purchased, and then we can start initiating appraisals. So that was kind of remaining due diligence items before we circled back with them. And we do have a team assembled, so we have our water rights attorneys on the books now, as well as our water rights consultant. And so this is going to be a long, slow project, but I'll continue to provide you updates as we have them. Just some updates on community programs and education, things that our volunteer coordinator and natural resource specialists have been up to over the summer. So we have had a few volunteer programs. One was a beautification event at the Moffett Open Space. We've also been experimenting with painting cottonwoods with sand-laden paint as an alternative to wrapping with chicken wire to see if that's perhaps an easier way to do that project with volunteers. We will be doing a thistle dig at Horse Creek Ranch this upcoming Sunday. If anyone is interested from the committee, we do have additional room. If you want to bring out your families to a super beautiful place and pull some thistles while you're there, I'd love to have you. Marina and Chelsea have been doing kind of some water quality type projects as well in their spare time. So we noticed that there was a huge amount of plastic bottles that had come down into the wetlands at Blackwell's Pond, probably from the big water year. So they spent a few hours out there and they removed 10 garbage bags worth of plastic bottles, which was pretty amazing. So that was something they kind of just did above and beyond their normal programming, and that was awesome for them to take care of. Last program that I led, there is a group at the Tahoe Expedition Academy who's interested in becoming a Bee City USA themselves up in Truckee. So they have been coming down to Carson the last few years to learn more about our Bee City program. So I gave them a guided tour of the Bee Hotel as well as the Foothill Trail and taught those kids all about pollinators and how they can protect them in their own community. So always happy to share that information. Related to the programmatic agreement that we have with the State Historic Preservation Office, staff have been working to amend this agreement for the past few years. We are nearing a point where we can close the book on that project. Everyone's reviewed it, signed off on it. So we're just working to get our DA approval and signatures, and we'll be able to implement that new amendment. And the biggest changes that came through that amendment is there's now going to be a list of exempt activities that are attached to the programmatic agreement. So prior, just as a kind of update or a reminder for you guys, so prior to amending the programmatic agreement, if we were going to do any ground disturbing activities on Oplima conveyed lands, we had to go through some form of cultural review with SHPO, which was obviously very cumbersome and made it challenging for us to, put in new signs or replace a gate. So now we will have a list of approved routine maintenance tasks that we can draw from. We will still need to notify SHPO that we're going to undertake one of those tasks. So I didn't quite get the full approval to do what I needed, but that's okay. It's definitely still an improvement, and they'll get back to us in 15 days, which is still less than our current time frame. So I'm happy with how that ended up, and that's going to give us a lot more leeway as staff. So that's been huge. We have brought on a bunch more personnel. So I mentioned Marina Lovejoy. She started at the end of May, and she has been an absolute rock star. We are so lucky to have her. She is a perfect addition to the team. We also brought on our full-time parks maintenance worker for open space. That's Joe Steele. He started at the end of May as well. He actually came to us. He had previously worked for the Nevada OHV program as one of their technicians. So he had been out on Prison Hill doing work with us for a lot of time. So he was very familiar and was able to jump right in. He's been a rock star as well. And then we had 2 of those positions slated. So Bob Tonseth will be starting October 2nd, and he will round out our open space maintenance team. And he's coming to us from City of Sparks and has a wealth of experience doing all the things that we do every day. So they're going to be great additions to the team. I'm sure Jared will be excited to have some more hands. I didn't include it in your packet, but I did want to mention that we had the tour of the Old Woods Ranch. back at the end of August. And so that was a really great tour. Thank you for everyone who's able to make it. The idea there was just to take a look at Old Woods Ranch, be able to see it, smell it, understand it, so that when we bring the draft conservation easement before you, you will all have been out there and understand the value of what we're trying to protect. That was perhaps potentially slated for October. There's been some delays being able to get that completed on our consultant's end. They've had some things arise, so we're hoping for December. So thank you for your patience while we wait for that draft easement to be completed. And then lastly, as usual, I just included a list of a bunch of the great events that we have, past and upcoming, so that you are all aware and can join any of these things if interested. So with that, I will take any questions.
Wow, that's unreal. Catch your breath. Are you taking notes, Jen, on all these stuff your staff does here? It's unreal. One thing I do want to ask is for each member, like we did for the OHV trip to Prison Hills, could you please give them feedback on their up to the Woods Ranch that we all took, like we just did a few minutes, well, more than a few minutes ago, I guess. And I'll start with you again, Mary. And then any other comments you want to make too?
All right, I'm going to start away from the Woods Ranch first, and I wanted to address the what you were doing, searching for all of the birds, and how encouraging this is, because I know when we finally passed the dog ordinances, we were very concerned about the bird populations, and we went with education first. What's going to happen if we try it this way? And these numbers are very encouraging. I know they're not set. There was a lot of anomalies this year with flooding but I think it's really important we stay on top of looking at this and making sure that our dogs aren't running rampant, and staying on top of educating, and hopefully turning that public so they understand how important it is to keep their dogs on leash down there, clean up after them, etc. So these are awesome numbers. So yay for the birds. Onward toward Woods Ranch. What a fabulous property. Incredible. Carson City has so many unique features in their open space program. It kind of boggles the mind. And this one, of course, is a gem. So I'm really happy to see that the family is involved in this process and very, very excited about working with the city to keep this property as pristine and vibrant as it is. So, hooray. That's all I have to say. Keep doing your wonderful job there.
Okay, so Rob Galeri for the record. I will not talk about Woods Ranch because I was unable to make that tour. But what I will say is you guys are doing a great job in a lot of different aspects, but I'd really like to point out the reseeding and the success of the revegetation on the Prison Hill fire. That's really impressive, the amount of vegetation you got in a short period of time. So congrats on that.
Really great report. It's nice to see what we're doing, and then even all the activities that have been done and are coming up is it's a lot of time, a lot of effort, and just it's so appreciated from the community. So thank you for keeping an eye out. The Woods Ranch was just I was with Mary, and it was just amazing that I'm looking forward to hearing the discussion of what's in the agreement, because there was a lot of comments regarding the family and getting people together and really what will come out of that. But I think some very positive things can and will. Thank you.
Yeah, I didn't go, of course, on Woods Ranch this time because I've been on it before. This has been a long process, but we've been through long processes before, so I'm kind of used to them. I'm looking forward to finishing this particular one and seeing the trail go through there, hopefully, to connect up. And of course, then the next big hurdle to get the trail connected to the CVTA trails will be that piece of property on the other side of the freeway. And I don't know where that is in the scheme of things. But yeah, it's another hurdle we'll get over. There's always one more hurdle, right? But we're getting close to reaching all of our goals with this one, I think. I don't think there's going to be many more goals left, will there? It'll all just be brushing after that, right?
With this crew, they'll have a list a mile long.
No, we can't buy much. You know, the Board of Supervisors keep telling us, don't buy more property.
Well,
Of course,
I think Jen's a little bit involved with that too. So.
yeah. Well, we're not buying this. This is just an easement, conservation easement. The next one is a purchase. So, no, it's great. And I love that piece of property. And of course, I'll be on the thistle pole.
Good job, Donna. You can take my place for that work. Sign in for me too. Go ahead, Sam.
Every time you, Lindsay, and you, Greg, speak, I always think to myself, I'm busy and I'm productive most days of the week, and then you guys speak and you're on a whole nother level compared to me. It's amazing. I mean, I feel like you work all night long and every weekend, but I know that's not the case. And I appreciate what you guys do and all the work that you put in. And, you know, that does not go unnoticed every time, you know, you speak to us in the community. For Old Woods Ranch, you know, Mark and I did that tour together, and that was just the best treat for me, you know, to just get one day away from my everyday routine and spend an afternoon up there. After we spoke to the family and just got to hear their story, I think my jaw was still on the ground on how beautiful that property was. It's just amazing, and to know that open space is working so close, you know, to get that conservation easement is really a great thing. So I'm proud of you guys in the way that you've approached, you know, that work.
Great. Well, you know, that type of environment in Nevada is really rare. A high meadow, especially in the high population area right next door. You know, I mentioned Little Valley's got that kind of open high meadow feeling. And it'd be terrible for the taxpayers to lose that opportunity. Just terrible. You guys have done a great job, and it takes years and patience. And the property was perfect and well taken care of. And it was a family that, for generations, it's part of who they are. So the whole fact that they're willing to share it and keep it and want to make sure it's saved for everybody, versus somebody coming in with $146 million house in their own meadow, that'd be a sad story that we let that go. So I mean, it's just perfect opportunity. So we could pursue it in every opportunity we got. Was one of the folks in here earlier that sat in the back that was part of the family? There was a gal that sat back there, and I thought maybe it was part of the family. You didn't see her, so forget what I just said. I saw Peter was here too, so I thought maybe there was something going on with Peter today too. But I can't say enough. And I love those field trips because you just kind of get this really cool feeling about that whole experience of being in these meadows up there. So thank you for that. And the family members, if they listen to the show. So for their unbelievable patience to work with bureaucracies for all of the stuff you got to go through to get stuff done on things like conservation easements. So with that said, I think we're done with reports then. And we're at members' announcements and requests for information.
Mr.
Go
Chair.
ahead.
We can go back to item 5B,
Oh,
our
take what I just said. I just totally blew it, didn't I? So hang on. Can I take a 3-minute or 4-minute break so we can set up your young man here to come up and make his presentation then, so he can set up that way. That's where we were going, right? Is that where you were going? Okay.
Exactly.
Almost blew it. All right, so we're taking just a short break so he can set up his presentation. Huh? No, then you're on. You're on the mic. This is your moment. So let me read into the agenda what that was, and I took that page and put it somewhere else.
Mr. Chair, just for the record, if you could say we've come back for our break.
Oh.
Or come back from our break.
Did I? Well, That was a quick 4-minute break, sorry. There we go. Thank you for that. Now, what did I do with that page of the agenda? Oh, here it is, here it is, here it is. Okay, so review and discuss, this is 5B, we're going back to 5B. For the review and discussion regarding Clayton Jones Eagle Scout project to conduct maintenance on the segment of Bob's Trail. Greg?
Okay, so I'm happy that Mr. Jones made it. So without further ado, I'll let Clayton Jones go ahead and give his presentation. That button, and that's how you can talk. So.
Hello. Sorry for being late. I'm Clayton Jones. I'm with Troop 341, and this is a presentation for my Eagle Scout project on Bob's Trail. So our project partners for this project will be from Muscle Powered will be Pete, and he'll be our
That's why
technical.
Pete was here. I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Keep going.
Will be.
Oh, well, Peter was here earlier, and that's why he was here, probably to see you do your presentation.
Yes, probably. But he will be our technical advisor for the project. And then from Parks, Rec, and Open Space is Greg Bergeron. And then Chelsea Kincloe. And then they are our contacts for the project. And then our other partners for the actual labor of the project will be my Troop 341. So this project will be maintenance on a quarter-mile segment of Bob's Trail, and it is located in the Ash Canyon area, and the maintenance will include brushing for us to clear overgrown vegetation and blocking the trail and to improve the line of sight. And then we'll also be widening the trail to make easier hiking and bike riding, as well as room to pass on the trail safely. And then we'll be removing large rocks and roots from the trailhead for added safety. And then we also fill any large holes. So this segment of trail is overgrown with vegetation, as well as the trail is narrowed a considerable amount, and there are many rocks and roots cluttering the trail. And then this is the actual location, and then the purple, I don't know if you can see it very well, is the whole trail, and then the little squared off area is the actual location of the project. But this is a better zoomed in picture. The red is the quarter mile of this segment we will be doing for my Eagle project. And then here are some photos of the current trail. As you can see, it's got a bunch of overgrown vegetation covering it, and makes the trail very skinny and not much room for hikers and bikers. As well, you can see here as well with the bushes hanging over the trail and just making it very skinny. Here is an example of one of the large holes that could be very unfortunate if you happen to step in it or a bike tire fall into it, and we would fill holes like this for safety as well. And then this is another picture showing some of the loose rocks up farther on the trail, as well as the bushes hanging over. And then this is a better picture of the loose rocks we are talking about to help make sure hikers don't roll any ankles or slip or anything, as well as bikers not sliding on rocks. And then this is just another example of how much the trail is narrowed as well as with the vegetation and roots growing into the trail. And then some tools needed for the project will be loppers, shovels, McLeods, and some rakes. And then some safety procedures will be everybody will need long sleeve shirts, long pants, closed-toed shoes, gloves, eye protection, sunscreen, water, and then helmets will be provided. And then thank you for your time and listening to my project. Is there any questions?
Go ahead, Mary.
Clayton, thank you very much, because the older I get, the more help I need. So I'm happy to hear that you're kind of clearing the brush back so I don't slam my pedals into it and knock me off the trail anymore. So thank you for taking your time, for going out there and doing that.
Any others?
Thank you. Thank you for taking an interest in in doing this. I really appreciate it. When are you planning on doing this?
The planned date for the project as of right now is October 14th, but we're still waiting for my project to be approved by council.
Oh, by
So
council.
that date could change, but that is the set date for right now.
Perfect. Thank you.
Any other comment? No, thank you for doing that. I mean, why did you pick trails? Was it something near and dear to your heart, or?
Well, I feel like that too, because I enjoy mountain biking and hiking, but as well as I feel like it's just something that like needs help with. Not it's a lot of work, so I feel like it's a good thing to help out.
Yeah, I don't know if Greg told you, but most trails are built by volunteers. So without them, there wouldn't be very many trails out there. And then to maintain them is really hard because there's hundreds of miles of trails. So your type of program is really essential. And Greg loves Eagle Scout projects. But, to bring in because your generation is the ones that we want to target and get you away from your iPhones and outdoors, working in the outdoors and making trails. So we appreciate that very much.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? This is discussion only. We'll look forward to seeing pictures when you guys get done. And
Okay, all right, we're good. Good job.
all right, well, now I got public comment for this item, which doesn't refer to you, sir. If anybody in the audience want to make a comment to this? You got public comment.
Thank you very much, Chair, for your patience, and I appreciate the opportunity to say hello to Mr. Clayton. The thing is, having to use your time as a student for myself being in sports and then also being able to do this would have been impossible. For him to stretch his labor and his time for this project is just really commendable, and I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Danny. All right, well, we're done with that item. We move it back here for any other comments, and we'll let this poor man escape and go home, and thank you, Mom. You're tardy, but you won't be marked tardy on your report card, so you don't have to worry. Okay, there you go. It will. Football coaches win. I'm sorry. All right, well, good. Now I'll know to look for you out in the football field, too, then. That's great. Oh, my goodness. It's after my bedtime at that age. Oh, good night. Thank you. Where we? Oh, we were at Director's Report. Now I got to go back to comment. It was comments from here. Now I got to go find the old one. Member announcements and requests for information. I'll start down at this end again. What did I miss? Member announcements? No, future agenda items. That's next. Yeah. Any other from this side of the table? No? This side, comments, requests for information?
I'll make a comment. I'm very proud to say that the historic Virginian Truckee Trail had its first annual bicycle ride, and we had 22 riders. So I thought that was pretty good. We had one rider do the whole thing, front 86 miles. So that was pretty good. But yeah, we had them from Douglas County, Washoe County, and Carson City County. So felt really good about that. So it was exciting.
This is all on Donna's initiative, folks, so remember that when you think the V&T Trail. So
Yeah.
the two mixed together. Thanks, Donna, for all that and that.
So, and we're moving forward. We're plugging along. But yeah. Anyway, that was it.
All right, so we're future agenda items. Anybody have any comments for future agenda items? We bring back the mission statement. We bring back the 5 years worth of board members. I can't think of anything else tonight that we talked about that would bring forward. Anything that she brought in, any of the reports or any work? Nope. Mine's clear, so Lindsay might have some for us later, but that's where, that clears our blackboard. Puts it in your basket, I'm afraid. All right, so this is a chance for the last public comment before we adjourn here. One more public comment period.
Denny French, Chair and Commissioners. One of the things that I noticed during the review of this that I did not understand that matrix at all. I apologize. But the main thing is that I got caught up, I think. I still have a different definition, but we're good. The deal for me is I had an experience the last meeting that y'all had that I tried to approach one of the commissioners. And when I brought up a matter that is dear to my heart and very personal, it was suggested that I was trying to micromanage. And I don't think that's really, I thought perhaps that was a little off state, and I would have preferred to individually discuss this, but I think it should be on record that when I come, I usually am a lot more prepared, but I thought I was tonight, and I'm glad that I got put on the right track here, and I appreciate your time. One of the things with not having a timer is that you can't tell your time. So I appreciate this opportunity just to say there are several things that I'd like to suggest. We have the opportunity to use drones and such to negotiate the hill, and I think it would be a really good tool to start introducing to reviews of the brush and the erosion problems and some of the other trail problems that might come up during the year. I'd also like to suggest that in the then and now pictures, that the then and now be to the same month each year unless we do a progress report per season. You know, have your winter report, have your summer, you know, the whole seasons, 4 seasons, and do it that way. But then when you're going to do, pick the same time period. You've got 2 different seasons here. And they're going to look different because the plants are in different developmental stages. They're in their spring stage, or they're in their summer stage, or winter stage. So in these pictures, it's January to June. They're 2 different seasons. So they're going to be different just because of that. And I would just suggest that maybe each year, if you're only going to do one review, do it on the same month of the year. That's a consideration. And I'd like to also suggest that my awkwardness at having to bring anything to any of you is because I've been advised that you're not really supposed to communicate with commissioners because they're not elected, and that their privacy and such is very important. And if I wanted to communicate, then I would do it through open space in the management of it. You're the advisory, but Jen Budge or Lindsay, and everybody's been approachable. But there are times when I have something I want to at least put out to maybe one of you after a meeting or before a meeting. And if that's not okay, just tell me. But I'd really rather not hear somebody suggest that when I'm involved and when I'm curious or when I have a question that I can't approach them without being suggested that I'm mini-managing, and because that's not it. I'm just drawing something to someone's attention. If it's not something to worry about, they'll let me know. But still should be able to address it. And thank you.
Well, on that closing, next on the agenda is adjournment. Anybody make a motion for adjournment? Donna so moves. We are officially adjourned. Thank you.